Analisa here from Lady of Leosure with the Taurus December 2022 horoscope. Taurus, this December, you're not going to feel like doing things that you normally do. All of the energy around you is about breaking out of mundane routine, getting out of town, exploring new things, and just getting out of your comfort zone, which I feel like this last few years with Uranus and Taurus has forced you to have to do that anyways. This month will be no different. With Venus and Mercury at the tail end of Sagittarius for the beginning of December, you might feel a little bit like you're letting go of maybe some of what your expectations were for the rest of the year. But by the second week of December, you're going to be planning some kind of getaway in some way that kind of breaks you out of the mold of maybe what you've done previous years. This is a really good time for you to do that. You might feel inspired to learn a new craft or a new skill. You might be inspired to take a class. Either you take that class in December or you sign up for it and it's for the future. But either way, if you're questioning whether or not you need a change or whether or not you need to fill your noggin with something new, the universe is supporting that. This is a really good time for you to kind of just lean into the things that are pushing you to grow and the things that are pushing you past where you've kind of nestled in, comfort zone wise before. Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so you tend to like things to stay the same in the way that you like them. And unfortunately, the universe really wants people that are indignant on staying in their comfort zones to break out of them. All of the fixed signs, we've been forced to break out of comfort zones and completely change who we are and our identity and how we're relating to the world. And so that's a very big emphasis for you right now in your life, just anyways. But this December, you might kind of get a wild hair up your ass to really just go on a trip, go on a road trip, or go to another country, experience another part of the world you've never been to, and just get away from, the holiday kind of nonsense. And, maybe you don't have the luxury of doing that. So if you don't have the luxury of getting out of town and kind of breaking up mundane reality, this is a really good time for you to expand your mind. So I mentioned, you might feel inclined to take a class or learn a new craft. This could also just be a good time where you open a book that you have been interested in reading and you are wanting to learn something new. It's also a really good time for you to explore your spiritual relationship to yourself. So even though the energy is going to be in Capricorn, you might feel like you want to return back to some form of dogma that you had in the past that was really beneficial for you in terms of connecting to the deeper part of yourself, but maybe in a more structured way. And so I don't want to assume that people listening to this are anti-religion or people listening are pro-religion, but let's say that you're pro-religion and let's say that you have a religious background. This might be a time where you feel like returning back to some of your roots in that way in terms of tradition. So, if you're Jewish and maybe you feel really like you're a Jewish Taurus with Taurus rising, and maybe connecting to your roots in that way is really important for you this year. Maybe celebrating, some of the traditional ways of cooking food or, bringing out the menorah, maybe things like that are really valuable. And I'm using Judaism as an example, but that could go for Catholics or other denominations of Christianity or any religion, that you may have where there's, maybe some rituals that you practice that you feel like returning to. If you're not religious, it could be the same thing for you. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably have a spiritual practice of being interested in astrology in some way. And so ritual could be really beneficial for you in terms of connecting to that deeper part of yourself. So if you have rituals that you like to do around the full or the new moon, this would really feed your soul in that way. If you're just now exploring your spirituality and you're not really sure where to start, you might find some different practices, some different denominations of things that are interesting to you at this time. And it might be really fun for you to explore that and learn that right now in your life. So, different forms of yoga, different forms of meditation, different belief systems around how you can expand your mind. Those are things that could be really positive for you in that way. the new moon in Gemini or I'm sorry, not the new moon in Gemini, the full moon in Gemini that we're having at the beginning of December on the 7th or 8th, depending on your location, that's going to be hitting 16 degrees of Gemini. That energy is going to be affecting your finances. And so I think last month we talked about a little bit how this isn't really the best time for you to overspend because of where Mars is hitting in the chart for Taurus rising, Taurus sun horoscope. Finances are really a theme in terms of reflecting on just how it's working out for you in your life. Mars in the second house can sometimes cause us to make irrational or reactive decisions when it comes to money, especially in a sign like Gemini. And with the full moon coming, we might be reflecting on our relationship with money, and also not just actual money, but our ideas around self-worth and what we value in the material. And so reflecting on our beliefs in that way is a big theme. And there might be a big shift during this full moon where you're changing the way that you relate to yourself and how you see your self-worth. So that second house energy where Mars is in the Taurus rising chart has not only to do with just our material world in terms of how we relate to the money and the stability that we create for ourselves, but it also has to do with how we value ourselves. And so, you know, if we have low self-worth or we have issues around money or the way that we think about money, we might be feeling a lot of that at the beginning of December. And so it is positive for you to maybe let go of feelings of inadequacy or any feelings around self-worth that are not serving you right now. That could be really important and valuable for you to set intentions for that towards that new moon or full moon. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep thinking it's a new moon. It's not. It is the full moon. And full moons are all about releasing and letting things go, but also can be a good time to set intentions towards what we want to manifest. So if you're also in a position where you do want to manifest more money or more stability in your life, even though it's in the sign of Gemini and it's not a super stable energy, it could be helpful for you to start thinking of how you could create more of that for yourself at this point in time. Again, because of where we're at retrograde wise, we won't really see a lot of our intentions coming to fruition until probably February or even the end of January, it might happen. Let's see. So our new moon in Capricorn, we have at 1 degree of Capricorn. And for where it's hitting the Taurus chart, this is also going to kind of re-emphasize the stuff I was saying about building a stronger relationship to your spirituality or having more structure around the way you relate to yourself in that way. Also education, if you're thinking of starting a class or a program at the end of December, this is really positive for you to do that or sign up for it. Let's see here. That is also going to be making a square to Jupiter. And so Jupiter is going to be in Aries with that new moon squaring. And so that's definitely going to probably bring up some, I don't want to use the word like darker, like some darker things in necessarily a bad way, but you might have some things from your subconscious come up to the surface around this new moon. That's on December 23rd, where any like unresolved trauma or unresolved things from the past might feel like it's kind of smacking you in the face. And it might be time for you to really work through that. That's why spirituality can be really beneficial, especially for those in recovery, because when we have memories or things triggered from our past, it can be really, really, really hard to cope with it in our sobriety if we don't have tools that help ground us. And Taurus likes to be grounded, but a lot of the transits that are happening are very ungrounding for you at this time. Even though we're going to have a lot of Capricorn energy, which definitely helps kind of create a little bit more of an anchor for you. But where it's hitting isn't necessarily an anchor unless you choose to lean into and actively create structure in that way. So this new moon might bring up a lot of feelings, you know, where feelings that maybe you don't want to talk about, you don't want to express, but it's important that you find ways, not necessarily to talk about them with other people or share them with people, but to have some way of working through them, whether it's, you know, in a community like that, you feel safe working through that stuff, whether it's in a program, you know, if you're in AA, if you're in any of the recovery programs, working through it with people, if you have a therapist, working through it in some way, or if it's just through a religious or spiritual group that's helping you where you feel safe, you know, that's really positive too. And, you know, working through things through the body and kind of releasing them is really important. So I think that the theme for Taurus for this new moon at the end of the month could have to do with a lot of healing. Um, and allowing yourself to feel kind of the way that you feel about it, not necessarily thinking so much about how others have been impacted or whether or not your feelings are going to impact others. It's really important that you do that internal work for yourself. And I think it's going to be important for you to not put too much pressure on yourself in terms of sticking to your mundane reality in a way that's not serving you anymore. I think it's really hard for us to be aware of the patterns or the habits that we have that are not really serving us because we're just so used to those patterns and habits. But this is a really good time for you to wake up to the patterns and habits that are not creating a sense of safety, security, and stability in your life, because those things are important to you as a Taurus. Like safety, security, stability are valuable to you. And so, you know, reflecting on the areas where you're not creating that for yourself is going to, and figuring out what you're going to do to, you know, rectify that. That's important for you. It's going to help you. It's going to make you feel a lot better going into 2023. So not a negative time for you, but it might be a heavy time for you. And it's a great time for you to go explore new things and get out of your head and get out of your mundane reality. Be careful with your money still, because, you know, Mars retrograde there, you could have some unforeseen things happen, especially around that full moon at the beginning of the month, where you have to spend money you weren't necessarily wanting to spend. Of course, it's the holidays, so we're all spending a lot of money, but again, it's just good for you to kind of figure out ways that you can make things easier on yourself so that when unexpected things happen, it's not as stressful or chaotic. But that is your December 2022 horoscope. Good luck, Taurus. Happy holidays. Make sure you lean on the people that care about you.